Hi, everybody. Welcome to Patriot Nightcap. It's been a little while. I'm very excited to be back. Thank you so much for coming on my show. Chad, we have Chad Robert Stewart, international award-winning best-selling author, educator, global strategist, who's been on a few national school tours. And he has written Britfield and the Lost Crown, timeless classic transforming education entertainment book series while fostering in creativity, critical thinking, bringing encouragement to children and families worldwide. Welcome to Patriot Nightcap, Chad.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, tell me what inspired you to write this book series? And I feel like you're giving a throat punch to, the Harry Potter satanic stuff that we see in our schools. Like, I often question the creativity in my daughter's school, and I'll ask her. And I think it's also largely because teachers really have to stick to a certain syllabus. Like my mom told me a while back, God, you don't want to be a teacher now, because it's like they allow creativity. So tell me, what inspired you to write this book, and what did you notice while touring the schools? And thank you so much again for being on.
Sure. Yeah. And it's interesting too. Great questions. And I'm originally from Newport Beach, California. I was back east, Wellesley, Massachusetts, for 16 years, actually. And about 12 years ago, I was an investment banker. So it was interesting. I did my undergraduate work in British literature, European history. I was actually pre-law, but thank goodness I didn't go that route.
Right.
And then got into banking, which really, was fine, but not a fit for me, especially a creative, although I think we're all creative and all born with creativity. And it was about 12 years ago when I had the idea for the book. And it was funny because I was sent down to this really boring seminar in Providence, Rhode Island. And I think it was like on the weekend. And I had to go, of course. And I think it was insurance. And it was just like, wow, right? And so I just started
to did my life go? What am I doing?
Yeah. And you're trying to like stay awake and take notes. And I started to doodle. And I doodled a simple circle, 3 lines, a basket, a boy and a girl. And I wrote the boy and the balloon. And all of a sudden, that idea just resonated with me. And I thought, what a cool story that would make, a couple of orphans in England escaping from this horrible orphanage up in Yorkshire, Northern England. And then they find this hot air balloon and they're chased relentlessly by this illustrious detective Gowerstone. And so I just had this idea. I lived off and on in England for about 2 years. British literature, major, hugely influenced by, some of the greats, everything from, I love Charles Dickens, and then Jane Austen is great, and some of the other classics, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes. I mean, just loved that series. In fact, just read a great biography on him recently and reread all his works. It was just really, really great. And so I sat down, and just one piece of paper real quick. I said, starts up in Yorkshire. And then I just picked some really cool places that I've been to, like Oxford, Windsor, London, and then finally down to Canterbury. So it was kind of good. I had a semi outline of the book, if you will. Sat down. It took me 4 years, 2,500 hours to write Britfield and the Lost Crown. It's a 384-page fast-paced adventure series. And I think what's fun about it is a couple things, really. Is number one, it's our youngest reader's 7, our oldest reader's 93. Half of our reading audience, actually 55% of our reading audience are young adults, which is really that market. They really love these books, but we've had huge impact on kids. And so as they're reading it, what's great about this, I think, many things. I mean, what makes it really original with what's out there, and you already touched on that earlier, is number one, it takes place in present time. And so it's not futuristic, it's not post-apocalyptic, it's not a century ago, it's not in space, it's right now, it's right here in real places. It's as authentic as it can be. I don't use any kind of devices, mysticism, magic, witchcraft, demigods, superheroes. It's like every single person out there is like jumped on that bandwagon, you know what I mean, and think that's the thing. And it's just
and a lot of parents feel like, gosh, what do I have to read to my kid? Like a lot of parents feel very, I think, hopeless and lost that way.
Yes.
When I saw the balloon, I went on to the Britfield.com and I was watching the trailer. I thought it was fantastic. And it
cool.
kind of reminded me, because I used to love Pippi Longstockings. Like, it's just like Pippi Longstockings or, Mary Poppins, or just very adventurous. And so Tom and Sarah, basically the characters, escape an orphanage and then they have all these adventures. So you're also giving like a global education.
I am, yeah. So book one is in England, and they're 12 years old. And as children are reading, as adults are reading it, they're learning about geography, art, architecture, and culture. The book is based on family, friendship, loyalty, and courage. And then we incorporate critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity throughout the entire book. And again, not using any of these devices. So it's kids can really connect to the situations. They can connect to the characters. We've received thousands of feedback and letters from not just across the nation but the world, so I know, and I've met so many of them, and it's just like, oh, I feel like I know Tom. Or there was a really cute couple that had read it, and their parents said, oh yeah, we were just having dinner the other night, and my son was saying, if Tom was here, he would really like this meal we're having. And
Oh, yeah, right.
it just kind of resonates. And but you're right with some of those books. I mean, I was influenced by, my favorite book when I was a child was Runaway Ralph, the mouse on the motorcycle. And then I got into like the Hardy Boys, and I loved that, right? Because that's as close as it could be, in a sense that it's,
Yeah,
at least it's all
Drew.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys were Nancy Drew, and it's like, and I loved that series. And then Charles Dickens is probably pretty close to it, just in the sense that he wrote about real places in real time, about real people and real characters, which is what I've done. And because like every all my characters are sort of influenced by somebody. And what's fun is it's as we're impacting children and I'm receiving feedback from parents, it's like I just surprised a 13-year-old for her birthday. Parents know somebody that I know, and said she said she's turning 13. You're her favorite author. Britfield's her favorite series, and she's a very adamant reader. She's already read all of Lewis and Tolkien, and so like to be within that arena is such a compliment. And so I showed up.
Yes.
I showed up at her birthday, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" And
oh my gosh!
we talked for 2.5 hours. But they just got back from trips to France and Italy, and they got to visit. I mean, she was so excited. She's like, "Oh my gosh, this is where Tom and Sarah were, and this is where so and so was trapped in." And what you're doing is you're bringing you're giving these sites relevance, and you're bringing these characters to life, and you're also influencing children to travel, and that there is more beyond their city or their state, or even country.
Right. Without the sorcery or the sort of the satanic whatever.
I don't use that, right? I don't need to use that as a device. I don't use it's almost an excuse. And to me, it's harder to write the type of fiction I'm writing because it has to make sense. It's accurate. I'm doing research all the time, everything from maps and locations to train times to how much is the fare for a train to here, to how much is the cost, how cold is it in October in Germany. You know what I mean? It's just like, I mean, I'm pulling up everything I can. It's so funny too, because like even this morning I'm writing book 4, and this morning I was like looking up all these different things, and I've looked up scuba diving, and
your research and your dramaturgy, basically.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And so book 2 takes place in France. It's now 6 months later. They're 13, and so that's 474 pages. And then we launched book 3, Britfield and Return of the Prince, last September, and that takes place in Italy. And now they're 14 years old. That's 575 pages. And then book 4 is Eastern Europe, Russia. Book 5 is Asia. Book 6 is South America. And then I bring back the whole series the United States for book 7, and now Tom and Sarah will be 18. And so it's a lot of fun, number one, for me as an author to be traveling the world. I mean, if I had to keep coming back to England, book 2, book 3, like I love England, but you know what I mean?
A little bit.
So now I'm in France, and it's like so really what's great too is the location becomes another character, and I work off of it. And it's funny too, because although at the shortest point, France and England are only 26 miles apart, but they could not be farther apart. I mean, they're night and day difference with culture and history and personality. So France was fun, and then book 3 was incredible, like Italy. Our main scenes are Florence, Rome, and then Venice. And again, just tons of research, and it's based on really a lot of my travels. I've traveled most of the world, and so
through Tom and Sarah's eyes, through these characters' eyes, through these children's eyes, right? The Tom and Sarah characters, or you have?
Oh, I know. I've traveled before I started writing the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, actually, the book series, these adventures are played out through these children's eyes, right?
Yeah, correct. I mean, I'm writing in present time, and what's interesting too is because when they go from 12 to 13, that's also a lot of fun for me. And as you probably can well imagine, 12 to 13 is a huge leap, right? It's like a decade for kids, and then 13 to 14 is like another decade. Now, 32 to 33, who cares, right? You know what I mean? Like 41 to 42 doesn't matter, but So I get to mature them, and then the books become a little more mature, and you get to bring in some more subjects and
Right.
topics, and very, very slight, but you know what I'm saying? Like in book 3, I have a little bit of fun where Sarah's kind of starting to notice Tom in a different way.
Okay.
And he's obviously oblivious. And you know, and it's just this little thread, but it's really kind of cool. And then I get to sort of play this out. I get feedback like, "Will they marry?" And it's like, you know, it's like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, oh, like Tom blew it. You know, you get like they get so into the characters and stuff. And those
Oh,
are just
I'm excited. I want to introduce this to my daughter. She's 10, so I feel like
perfect.
perfect timing, right?
Yeah, especially with book 1. Book 1's great. Our youngest reader's 7, as I said, and
Yeah.
it's interesting too. I had this wonderful homeschool mother that when book 3 came out, she was like so thrilled because they're like waiting for it. And she goes, she was talking about book 2 though, Britfield and the Rise of the Lion. She goes, "Oh, I just got done reading it to my 5, 7, and 15-year-old."
Oh, really? Okay.
And I thought, but
Oh.
I got to admit, I'm like I don't know about book 2, like to a 5-year-old. It's like
You're
pretty
like, maybe not.
intense.
Let's stop it.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So, but it really depends. It depends on, I mean, I've met 7 or 8-year-olds, you know, through my tour that are like already reading Lord of the Rings. You know, they're just, you know, voracious readers. And so it just depends, you know, and next to Lord of the Rings, I mean, that's like, whoa, right? I mean, that's as intense as it gets, you know, and as dark as it gets. So it's great series, but pretty heavy. So.
What did you learn touring in some of the schools? Like, did you you went to a lot of public schools, like with critical race theory and all of this stuff being taught? Do you think you have been able to make an impact? And
oh, we have, yeah, and that is our goal, has been our goal, will remain our goal. Our beachhead has always been the school, specifically elementary, middle school, sort of your 4th through 6th into 7th grade. As the series continues, what's nice is we can kind of be rolling into 8th and 9th grade. And I think we could potentially have a pretty big impact on college, you know, a lot like some of those other books, big series out there, like they kind of take their own life in that college era because they're fun to read or they're exciting and stuff. But I was fortunate in the sense that I wasn't really exposed to it, but I because I'd come in and I'd be there for, you know, an hour or 2 hours at school.
Right. Talking about
but yeah, it was interesting in the sense that I got to talk to a lot of teachers, and I talked to a lot of librarians, thousands of kids, and we would do book signings. Sometimes I was there for like an hour and a half just signing books, which was incredible. I mean, we would do like 40%. Like, so if there's like 100 children, we would sell 40 to 50 books, which to me is just even amazing that, you know, 1 out of 2 kids are interested enough to read it. And we've had 12-year-olds that have read this in 5 hours, which is amazing. And yeah, I mean, because it's the way that it's written, and we can talk about that. It's not that it's written. It's sometimes people think, oh, it's a children's book. No, it's really adult fiction that I've written for kids. You know what I mean? Like with kids in mind. I mean, it's the vocabulary's rich, the sentence structure, the subplots, the depth, the character development. It's all there. It's just the way that I write that I think is very different from probably most writers, and it's twofold. One is I'm trained as a script writer, and so it's based on the 3-act structure.
I was going to ask you that question next. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's so I'm very aware of the 3-act structure. You know, plot points, midpoint, economy of words, entering late, leaving early, which is a great term. Like I think Downton Abbey, if you're familiar with that series,
yes,
I've always,
which
I loved. I thought they did an amazing job, but I mean, they have like 15 different characters, and you're interested in all of them, and they somehow balance it every episode, but they'll always start on the action and end on the action, if that makes sense. It's not like knock at the door, somebody walks in and you're wasting that space. And so so I write like that. I don't over describe, which I think probably 80-90% of authors make that mistake. You know, you're reading along, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, here comes another big paragraph about her fluffy sweater.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't really care. It has absolutely nothing to do with the story. And then you leapfrog it because you're like, continue with the action, please. Continue. And so I really try to refine my description. I'll give you some framework, but I'll let you fill it in. You know what I mean? We all know what a blue sky looks like. I don't need to spend a paragraph telling you about it, or a storm, you know and I might talk about.
It's kind of like the realtor. It's kind of like the realtor walking into the apartment and then describing the view for you. And you're like, well, okay, I don't really need this.
Yeah.
It's kind of
see it for myself, right? Yeah.
On and on. Let me imagine this. I think I can see this for myself. Yeah.
And then two things that we do with our books, which is fun, is like on my last draft, my goal is to remove one sentence per page. And so already it's as tight as it can be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what can I get rid of? What doesn't need to be there? What's redundant?
Yeah, sure. Right.
And a lot of times, and I say this to authors out there that might be watching, is usually if you take the last dialogue line, it doesn't need to be there. You know, it's almost like, okay, thanks a lot. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. I guess it's the same advice you'd give the actress, you know, always leave them wanting more, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to give their whole background and their history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that, and then what we do is we'll take, by the third draft, we'll go out to schools, middle schools. And we've done this for all three books. And this is private and public, 100 to 200 students. And they'll all, you know, it's volunteer. Just at one school for book one, we had something like 150 kids volunteering to read this 400-page book. And we only had 35 manuscripts. And so they had to literally pick names out of a hat. And I love that story because it just shows you how like enthusiastic kids were to do something fun, something creative. Like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic.
They're hungry for it. They're hungry for it, really.
Very hungry for it, yeah. And so then they'd get 3 weeks to read it. They'd fill out a 2.5-page survey, and then I would come to the school and I'd be in the library all day. And then during different periods, 4 or 5 of them would come in. I'd already have their surveys, and we'd knock it around and we'd talk. And I wasn't there for flattery. You know, it feels great that they'd say like, "Oh my gosh, I loved it," or "It's the favorite book I've ever read." And then I'd say like, "Yeah, but what didn't work with it? Or was there anything that was confusing? Or what didn't you like?" Or, you know, and I'm sitting there, you know, just taking notes. And it's, I mean, I would love that as a 12-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm valuing their opinion. I'm giving them this extraordinary experience that they'll never forget. And but I'm learning
writing for them. You're writing for them. So that's
they're my audience, and I'm learning from them. And so and once you break the ice after like 5 to 7 minutes, you know, because it's a little bit awkward, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this adult and this author," and they see that I'm really sincere, and I'm like, "Okay, so why was that?" And I was like, "Okay, that's interesting," you know what I mean? And I'm like getting pages of notes of their insight, and that's really helped impact and tweak the book ever so much, ever so slightly. And it's funny too. I'll just give you an example. Like in book 2, but I met with this group of like 13-year-olds, and there's a scene in book 2 where Tom and Sarah are in Paris, and they bump into somebody from book 1. I don't want to give anything away.
Okay.
And he's like, and they're like kind of in raggedy clothes, and he's like, you know, boy, you guys look terrible. He goes, "How about if I take you shopping?" And Sarah says, "I'm a girl. What do you think?" And I think he says something like, what do you think? Would you like if I took you to shopping and bought you a new wardrobe or bought you some new clothes?" And Sarah says, "I'm a girl. What do you think?" And they hated that line. Like all of them, they're like, "Yeah, we'd really, that's ridiculous. That's offensive." And I'm like, I thought it was kind of cute. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a girl. Like, what do you think?
Yeah. Okay.
But at the end of the day, I removed it. You know what I mean? And it's not like I take every bit of advice, but I'm like, okay, if it offended 4 or 5 people for whatever reason, I took it out. And I don't walk on those kind of eggshells, but I'm just kind of giving you an example of just some of the stuff. I had one kid, it was amazing. It was book 2 also, and he was 12 years old. And he said, yeah, he goes, "Some of your chapters don't really resonate with some of your chapter titles don't resonate with the chapter." And I thought, dang it, you know. And I'm like, and then I'm reading it, and I'm like, he's kind of right. You know what I mean? Like,
gosh, Chad, that's
like, it was like 3 or 4 of them.
That's pretty funny. How old was this kid?
Like 12 or 13.
Oh,
you know,
pretty observational. Yeah. Oh,
but it's you know what it is. It's stuck, and so like, you know, because I'll hear tons of feedback, and everyone has.
Like,
their own
wait
opinion.
a minute, I'm the writer here. I'm the author.
Yeah.
About this for a second.
But when it sticks, you know what I mean, and it's just like, boy, that really got to me and stuff. So so that's kind of also part of the process, and it's like, and there are my audience. You know what I mean? Not some paid to play, not nightmarish. I'm gonna hold my words back. Critic out there, you know, that doesn't know jack diddly. He's a failed writer. Most of them are. You know what I mean?
The reason
giving me opinions or advice, he doesn't know anything. You know
I love what you're telling me, because it sounds like you're co-creating. It's like you are co-creating.
We are.
With these kids. And I think that's amazing, because they are your audience, you know. Did you write the book and then the screenplay? Did you do that after you wrote the book, or was that hand in hand? How did you make that?
So actually, so there's 2 screenplays. There's the theatrical play, which we started the process 18 months ago, which I could talk about real quick. So that's based on book 1. And it was interesting. I was at a school in Southern California, and I was leaving. This is a couple years ago. the theater director was there, and she said, her name is Michelle Shoemaker, who I've obviously since then gotten to know very well. Yeah, Michelle
What
Shoemaker.
A great name.
And she goes, did you ever think of turning Britfield and the Lost Crown into a play, theatrical play for kids? And I thought, no, like we've thought about everything else, movies, television, games, like, but I've never thought about the play. Didn't think much of it, but it stuck, right? And that's how ideas are sometimes. And 18 months ago, we pulled the trigger and we said, we're going to develop this into a theatrical play, because that's just another wonderful way to hit the schools, to impact the schools.
Yes.
Solid, real. And so as I'm doing my research, I'm realizing 80 to 90% of all the sort of plays that are in schools are musicals, which to me is awful, because it alienates 90% of all the kids that want to get into theater. How many 12-year-old boys want to go out and be in a musical? Number one, most of them don't sing. Number two, they're not going to have any real roles. They're in the back as the chorus. You just have your two main singers. And so I said, we need an actor's play. Yeah. And number two, the type of stuff that's in there. Again, it's all magic. Whether it's Frozen Junior or Aladdin Junior, it's all magic. It's all mysticism. It's all, removed from reality, flash over substance. And I'm like, here's Britfield, a real book about courage and character and faith and friendship and loyalty.
I love this. So, I have a very Christian, patriotic community and audience over here. And I feel like they're just going to eat this up. And I too am very interested actually in directing this. I used to direct young people's theater and all kinds of stuff. I actually studied acting at the American Repertory Theater in Boston for a couple of years. Yeah. So
I know where that is. I lived in Wellesley, Massachusetts. So I was in Boston.
My goodness. Okay. Did you ever go to American Repertory Theater?
I did. Yeah. In Cambridge, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I saw some good plays there.
What years? Do you remember when you were there?
Yeah, I was in Boston for 16 years. So 93 to whatever. Yeah.
This is funny, Chad, because I was there in 92 to 94 at the American Repertory Theater, and I also did some shows at the Hasty Pudding. Did you ever, Robert Brustein was the artistic director. So I did a few shows, Picasso at the La Panagile, directed by Steve Martin, or
I remember the Cherry Orchard, and it had
yes, my friend
had
Phillips
Burton, and it had
Claire Bloom's
daughter.
Claire Bloom.
Oh, okay. I thought it had Richard Burton's daughter. What's her name?
Well, gosh, is Claire Bloom Richard Burton's daughter? She might.
No, her name's something Burton. I remember the Cherry Orchard I saw at the American Repertory Theater.
Okay.
I saw probably 5 or 7 in the Huntington. I'd go to the Huntington.
Yes.
And then obviously like the Wang Theater. I haven't said these words in so long. And I was actually a corporate sponsor of the Boston Ballet. Loved that.
Okay. Okay. Gosh, how fun. We actually have some ties back then, but I was definitely acting at ART and at the Hasty Pudding 92 through 94. And so who knows, maybe.
We might have. Yeah. That's pretty cool. You got cast in the night.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in the screenplay, because maybe I could direct that out here somewhere in Arizona.
Yeah, let me know, because so what we've done, we piloted it last October over 4 nights, and it's a great success and practically sold out. It was wonderful. But again, it's just this middle school. It's a black box theater. There's only 200 seats. And it's interesting too, because it's not necessarily ideal for any theater, because you want room and a big stage. But I thought, if we can pull off Britfield and Lost Crown here, we can pull it off anywhere. So I didn't mind the challenge. And and it's great. You'll appreciate this, coming from a theater background. So number one, it has speaking roles for over 30 actors, and we had over 30 actors, kids 4 through 8 that were involved.
Amazing.
We utilized the entire stage and auditorium, and so like on the main scene, when the light goes down to change it, a light's coming up on the right or left, even in the aisle, and another scene is happening. And so you never have you have constant movement from scene to scene. There's never like the lights out, awkward moment of pause, change the scenes. It's always moving. Because
the transitions are the most important. You've got to have those. You've got to have the transition down.
Oh, and the kids were incredible. And it takes place in current time, so it's easy to costume. so you're not spending all this money on things you'll never use again. We have 28 sound effects, just simple ones, really cool sound effects, like when they're in the balloon and there's the storm and the lightning. And then we have 54 digital slides that if a school has it or a projector that they want to put and project on a back screen, you suddenly have the old Weatherly Orphanage, like the wall. You have a big library. You have like when they're in the balloon flying over England, you have these gorgeous pictures of this rolling green hills and red tiled roofs. And so it's like it's so visually stimulating.
Yes.
And then what we're having is like at the breakout, like there's a scene when Tom and Sarah break out, and so it's called The Great Escape, and all the orphans are involved to try to make a distraction to help Tom and Sarah get out of there. You know, you have kids running through the aisle and up the aisle. The fourth wall's never broken, but and then like at a scene like when they're in London, the kids are now background, and they're like dressed in a nice outfit, and one's holding an umbrella hailing a cab, and a couple of girls are walking down the aisles. They're talking, drinking a cup of coffee as they're headed to work. And so it's just like you're in Oxford, you're in London. That's how it's designed, and it's incredible. So it's now we launched it in February. It's now a turnkey operation on Britfield.com website. The school can purchase the whole thing and license it for it's a 3-year license. You know, I mean, if you only need it once, that's fine. And you get everything. You know, you get the director's script, which is twice the page, and it has all the cues, everything, lighting, everything. You have the actor's script. You have the director's notes. So we walk through each scene exactly how it needs to be set up and all the different things that are needed. Now, as a director, whether they want to take that or not, that's fine. It's totally up to you. But it's everything you need is there. It's like turnkey, download, you know, pay for it, download it.
I just go to Britfield.com and I can find this.
Yeah. But let me know, because if you're interested in doing something, we can coordinate with that. And because part of it is included as consultation with me and Michelle, if anybody wants it, because she's done it. So she did it. She's done over 80, theatrical plays. Wow. And what's great about her is she's one of those kind of really rare middle school directors that like is so into her craft that she's constantly going to even local high school or private schools to watch their productions, to get ideas, to see what's up, what's new. I mean, she's so geared into it, and she helped me. She helped me. She would read. Yeah, the first thing she said to me, she goes, your lead actors can't have more than 50 lines. And I thought, okay, good to know, right? Like how would I know that, right? And
she knows her craft.
They're 12, they're 13 years old. It's like they can only like memorize so much and stuff, and
they can only retain so much. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with her on that. So what's happening with the movie? I know that you also mentioned there's a movie. So it's a 7-book series. It'll be followed by 7 major motion pictures. It's actually funny that so a year ago. Yeah, almost a year ago, we pulled the trigger with our screenwriter, and he's amazing. He's worked for many of the studios. He's written over 40 screenplays, and so he's produced the first Britfield Lost Crown screenplay, and now he's on the second draft of it. So we got the first screenplay back, 37 pages of notes. It's like a lot, and then the second draft has been amazing. What he's doing now is he's sending me each act, like act 1, and then taking a beat, I'll read it, and then we'll talk for 2-3 hours and go through it page by page. It is so tight, it is so clean. And as of yesterday, he just sent me the third act of the second draft, which I will read this weekend, and we'll talk. And so that'll complete the entire second draft. And then so by next week, we're going to be on the final and third draft, which is really just a polish and tightening. We're like right around 170 pages. It'll be about a 2-hour and 20-minute movie. So I need to now, which is fine, get rid of about 15 pages. And I can do that by getting rid of just what I said before, a couple sentences or this or that from every page, and just tighten it now and have a really clean, tight 2-hour, 2:15, 2:20. And so exciting.
It is. I'll be honest. I'm reading it, and I'm invigorated and excited. He's at the top 1% of his craft, and I would put him in the top 1% of anybody in the industry. There's not that many really that are good. You know what I mean? You might see a great movie that you love, but it's always like 5 or 7 or 10 people that have been involved in writing the script, right? It's gone through all these different transitions. He is killing it. And so it's exciting. And so like I'm seeing, as I'm reading these scenes, I'm seeing the audience, I'm seeing the kids like getting up from their chair and cheering. I mean, like,
wow,
like so amazed. Like even in the first act, you know, it's 35 pages and it's so clean and it's so tight, and you go through so much, and then they finally break out. And I'm thinking, for most movies, that was an entire movie. And I'm thinking, and it was so good and it was so exciting, and you had so much going on, and this wild dog chasing him called Wind. It's like kind of think of the Hound of Baskerville, right?
oh,
That
wow.
roams the orphanage, and usually he's
Yeah.
chained up, and it's like it's so good. And I'm like, and the story's just started, kids, right? It's
Oh
like
my
as
God.
act one ends, it's like you have no idea what's ahead. It's like it just gets better and better and better. And we're anticipating, and I can say this with certainty, that once the movie comes out, we're looking at November 2025 as the launch. I think will break box office records. I think it'll be one of the most successful films in cinematic history, and I think you'll see Titanic and Star Wars moments, for all the right reasons. It's a great story, but a hunger worldwide for good, clean content. There's an 85-90% gap out there, period. Hollywood's not going to fill it. They can't fill it. It goes against their agenda.
Right.
They got to screw up every single movie they do. Netflix is 1,000 miles off the reservation with their garbage, and they're just blowing it with great actors and money and resources. And they keep spewing out this just crap, and nobody likes it. Nobody's into it. And suddenly you get this fresh, just real great, movie that's inspiring and edifying, and it reminds you of, like, The Sound of Music, or like
Oh, I
some,
love this.
right, some of the old, right. I mean, it's like, and that was like the second highest gross, no, fourth highest grossing film in cinematic history. Star Wars was the third, I think, the highest grossing film in cinematic history. And just some of those
Star
movies,
Wars was.
the movies that we grew up with, that we loved, kind of like you were saying, like Pippi Longstocking,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
some of the earlier Disney films before they got too weird. You know what I mean? But they inspired
yeah.
us as a kid.
Well,
You know,
boy,
it's like,
you just nailed it with that word. It did. Things have gotten so weird. It's like it's
yeah.
unrecognizable, and you're right, it's crap. So
And they keep pushing it, right? They'll keep
yeah, they
pushing it,
do.
and they're failing. And I say this as encouragement to anyone that's listening. I mean, there's such a wide audience out there, such a wide market for good, clean content. Stop compromising it and thinking you need to bring in the witchcraft, or you got to bring in this or that. It's all crap. It's all crap.
Yeah,
Just write
yeah.
good stories. That's it. Write
So let
good
me ask you
stories.
something. What's your opinion on Barbie? Did you go see Barbie?
I didn't. It was interesting too, because we were. I met my friend at a Cinepolis, which is cool theaters, and we saw Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning. But it was around the same time, and it was crazy. Like I'm walking up, and like everyone's dressed in pink.
Yeah.
They're taking. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, what has it done? $1.4 billion worldwide. I didn't see it. I won't see it. I have heard feedback. So
Yeah.
I won't say, yeah, but I didn't see it, so I won't say much about it. If you've
No,
seen
but
it,
I want to say that I agree with you. I think that there is an agenda out there. So the fact that you're bringing out good, clean content, and it's edifying and it captures imagination. I went to Britfield.com and I watched the trailer, and I was like, oh yeah, I can totally see this. This looks great. So
that's just our book trailer too. That's not like a movie trailer. It's just a book trailer. It was done a couple years ago, but it's fun, right?
It's
It
fun.
feels.
It's like I was like, oh, now I really want to read this, because I have not read this yet. But I can go on to Britfield, and then I can just order the book, and then I can look into the screenplay you were telling me, right?
Yeah. If you order the book online, then on Britfield website you get signed copies, and I'm still signing. I'm getting busy, as you can imagine, but I still have time to sign them, and it's fun. I mean, I've shipped. A couple of weeks ago, I shipped a signed book off to South Africa. I shipped book 3 signed to Netherlands to a woman that got back to me, and she goes, I just read book 3. She goes, amazing. She goes, I've never read anything like these books. She's like in her 40s, and she goes, I can't wait till you guys are over here, like being distributed and stuff. And but that comment, like she's never read anything like that. I think, I mean, that's amazing to me. To
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
there was a great. From the Epoch Times last year they said it's a combination of Dan Brown and C.S. Lewis, and I thought that's cool.
That's very cool. The C.S. Lewis compliment, that is very, very
cool. Yeah. And
you're right up there with the C.R. Stewart.
Then I remember there was a 14-year-old high school student that loved the Britfield series. She just got done reading book 3 and got back to us, and she said, "You're now up there with Lord of the Rings." And I thought,
oh my gosh. Well,
but see, it's coming from them,
yes,
right? I mean, right.
Right.
It's coming from a 14-year-old that's well read, that's read all of that, and is reading Britfield. And what I love about it is, we're not only holding their attention, and we're not only creating this incredible wave of excitement for kids to read and to share. I've had some 12-year-olds that have read book 1 like 7 or 8 times. I'm seeing
that's
parents,
when you know they're loving it. That's great.
Yeah, I'm seeing parents now reading book 1 after their kids, so they can be caught up with them and talk about it. You know what I mean? The couple that I met for lunch a couple of weeks ago, she's now like on midway through book 3 because her daughter's read all of them and loves them and stuff. And so I just love that the parents are getting involved. The parents are reading it. I know there was when book 3 came out, there was one, we did some pre-sales to some of our fan base, and my mom says, "Oh no," she goes, "I just received the book, but I've got to wait 2 days because my husband's traveling, and we read it as a family." And I thought, how cool is that, right? I mean, so it's just, it says, I know one group that or parents that they invented the Britfield board game that they play with the kids, you know. And I just love when things transpire from the book.
Right.
Creativity inspires creativity. It's, you know, good in, good out, right? Bad in, bad out.
There is a Britfield board game.
No. They created one.
Oh, okay. Because it would make sense that you would have one.
Yeah, no, we're actually we're in development right now for the Britfield board game. We actually have interest from the largest board game manufacturer in the world right now, which is interesting too. And so we were going to be more on that this year, but that'll be next year, because right now it's all about the movie, and then I'm about 65% done with book 4. And so, you know,
congratulations, Chad. You know, and I feel like your timing is so perfect, because we've just been drowning in this Harry Potter, you know, nonsense and sorcery and all of this. And
yes,
and I have felt pretty hopeless as a mom too. Like, okay, well, what can my daughter read? And she's, you know, it's hard to find anything that is good, clean, and you don't have to sit there and wonder, like, oh God, what am I showing my kid right now? You know? So congratulations. It sounds amazing. And I'm going to order it. And so for my audience, go to Britfield.com and then be on the lookout for the movie. And then I can also like order the screenplay and talk to you about that if I want to do that, right?
Yeah, we can double back on that. So it'd be very cool if you're interested in putting that together. We really encourage, you know, any teachers that are watching, homeschoolers, you know, to put on the Britfield play. You don't necessarily have to. You can always use a church, you know, and when they're not using it, you know, as an auditorium, but what's great about it is you could even do it in a library. You know, not ideal, but I'm saying the play's adaptable enough that you don't have to be on the stage, or you could even just do a read through in your class, which would be very
I was just going to say a read through. Just do a read through
and have all your characters, and then you know, whether you want to physically do it or they're just all reading from the script and they're acting out the characters, and it's just a lot of fun. And you know, we're all about we're all about bringing creativity back in the classroom. I mean, as a nation, we're in a creativity crisis. We have been for 30 years. In 10 specific areas, creativity scores have been going down at a 45-degree angle every single year, including critical thinking, communication, collaboration, inspiration, thinking outside the box. I mean, all these different areas. And on the other side, creativity is the single most important skill set in the world. And that's based on research and stats and facts. It's not accounting. It's not engineering. It's not all this other crap that they keep pushing. While important on one level, creativity is at the core of everything.
Absolutely.
Put it this way, in the next 5 to 10 years, and I'm not a proponent for AI, it's a joke and it's ridiculous. So anyone out there that's going, oh, look at how exciting this is, you're an idiot, and you're nailing your own nail in your own coffin.
Right.
So, but 80% of all accounting,
mm-hmm.
all of 80% of all accounting jobs will be obsolete in the next 5 to 10 years. Period. 40 to 50% of law jobs, meaning lawyers in any kind of legal field, 40 to 50% of all medical, including doctors, nurses, everything, obsolete and replaced by AI. One thing AI will never replace is creativity, and they know it. And that's why, number one, they're trying to snuff creativity out of the classroom, and they're pushing all this other stuff like, oh, get an accounting degree. And it's just like, and they know that accounting, you'll be looking for a job in the next 3 to 5 years.
You know what's happened with the Writers Guild and the strike?
I've been following it. I haven't had any recent, but I know part of the argument. I know what's going on. I don't think it's going to end soon. What I've been told, it might roll on until next year. Yeah. For us, it just, it opens up opportunities. I mean, it doesn't really matter what the enemy does or whatever's happening in politics. My goal is Britfield. My goal is, we want to. There's 110,000. I think 120,000 elementary middle schools in the United States. I want to be in 90% of them in the next 8 to 10 years. That's my goal. We're planning an 18-month global tour for the movie starting next year.
Amazing.
And I can't wait to get to Eastern Europe and Poland and Hungary and all over, and inspire kids about creativity and give away books, not just sell them, but give them away, and give away t-shirts and bookmarks and stickers, and just let them have fun being kids.
Yes, let them have fun being. And it sounds like, listen, if we can get the drag queens out of the libraries, my gosh.
Yeah.
Bring in, make it more God-centered, and bring in this good, clean, edifying, adventurous.
It's coming. It's coming. Yeah, there's an awakening. You're very aware of that. There's a reckoning coming for those that have been behind all of this stuff. No one's going to escape that. That's a fact. Not a threat, it's a fact. And there's a reckoning coming for every single one of them. Everyone that's been behind this, everyone that's endangered a child, everyone that's abused a child. It's going to get real ugly real fast. It's not going to be clean for them, and there's no forgiveness, and there's no one that can hide.
That's right.
I mean that.
I know that
from the top all the way down to the bottom.
Too. And my whole Patriot Nightcap over here has been to spotlight children's issues and sex trafficking and stuff. So this is right in line with what I believe in and what you're doing. And so I just, my hat is off to you, and thank you for being that incredible writer. And thank God you didn't stick around that day at the insurance seminar because look where you're at.
Or take better notes.
So thank you for coming on. And what is next for you? When are you doing your next national tour, or when is that happening?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're at the Frankfurt Book Fair in October, and I was hoping to do something, but it's just right now with the climate, that's going on, and it's funny too because we were planning Eastern Europe, and then that whole thing is happening over there, and it's like so we'll wait. But what's fun though is I've got a wonderful rights agent, Lori, that sells, we sell the book rights. We've got about 15 countries right now that are in the process of purchasing the trilogy, book 1, 2, and 3, which is exciting. And then they'll translate it into their language. Our first country was Poland. God bless them. And I was very excited about that. They just purchased book 3. And so they've got book 1 and 2. Last year, book 1 knocked it out of the park in Poland, was selling thousands of books, and I love that. Wow. But we're going to be at the Frankfurt Book Fair. What I think is ironic is we're literally, she knows everybody that works there, and they love her, so they give her a great spot, a great location. She's right across from Scholastic, and I just thought it's going to be really cool when the publishers of Harry Potter are looking across at a big fat Britfield poster. Because we're coming, and I believe we'll outsell Harry Potter in the next 10 years.
I do too. God bless you. This community is definitely behind you. Thank you, Chad Stewart, Britfield of the Lost Crown. Go to Britfield.com, folks, and check out the book. And what a wonderful idea for anyone who's homeschooling. Maybe you're a mom, you're looking for something for your kids to read.
Sure.
As am I.
Real quick, we have a study guide, 83-page study guide based on national standards. So this is designed to be taught in the classroom.
Oh my gosh, okay.
We're already in thousands of schools, and we're being taught in hundreds of schools across the nation. And we already have schools that are developing or bringing in the Britfield theatrical play. So it's kind of cool. Even if you're a homeschooler, you can get the study guide and then teach it chapter by chapter. Yeah.
Was there a separate website for that? Is it Britfield?
No, it's Britfield.com. It's under
all
products
under resources.
Store. Yeah, store. So it's
all in there. Okay. Chad, thank you so much. So nice meeting you. And
thank you.
I'm going to go back to your website and check this out. I think I'm going to do a reading at my daughter's school. That's what I'm going to do. You've inspired.
Oh, I love it.
You've inspired. Yeah. I really mean that.
about the theater play, because it's I'd be excited to get behind that. I'll tell you one thing that was interesting that Michelle said. She's done over 80 plays, mostly musicals, and she said it's the first time I saw all the kids come together and work a lot harder, because normally when you're doing a musical, you have the sound cues, you know, the next song comes up, and so they know that they need to assemble. With this, they didn't, and so it was very critical that they knew, like, your scene's coming up, your scene's and get ready and change, and it's like they were all working together. It's this wonderful team, and I tell you,
One big
I will. Yeah, the first night was great. I will never forget the fourth night, because it was like they had it. It was like butter. You know what I mean? It's like it was so beautiful. And it's so, like, it's so tight, and it's like the transitions, and they were having fun, and then and their confidence was there. Little fourth grader came up to me, you know,
Chad, you're making me miss my theater days, because honestly, there's nothing like there's nothing like the family feeling of your company and working together, and then you rehearse and you get past the half-baked period. And then it comes together, and it's the best feeling in the world. You know, it's teamwork, it's fun, and it's creative, and you're expressing yourself, and you take that arc and the journey. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Get back to that, especially in middle school.
I agree, and to bring a cool play that everybody wants to be involved in.
So thank you for that. Thank you for providing the material, and I want to say thank you for listening to the kids, because you co-created, and I don't think there's anything better. Like, you're giving them a platform, and so many of these kids don't have that, you know? So thank you for that. Okay, I'm gonna let you go, as my kid is staring at me. You go, and thank you, Chad. And I hope to have on. By the way, I'm gonna tell some other of my friends about you, if you would like to talk to some more people about your book and the play. And
please spread the word, and yeah, we're excited. We love doing these interviews right now. We're kind of on a blitz, which is fun, and I know things are going to get hectic toward the end of the year, and then next year, and the movie's escalating. We're transitioning soon into pre-production, and we'll be in England next year, which will be cool. And I mean, we're going to do an 18-month marketing campaign for the movie in the likes that no one's ever seen, really. And just, I mean, I can't wait. It's gonna be exciting. So
exciting. I can't wait for my audience to see this interview. I will also send it to you, and
thank you.
I want to stay in touch with you. So fantastic. Thank you. God bless. Thank you so much. Thank you.
God bless.
Okay. Bye-bye.
The silence is it.